Hey guys, I'm Bonefoot, and today I'll be dealing with some unfinished business. I'm 9 months late, but there's no way I'm letting my perfect streak end here. I've been doing these videos every year since 2014, so here you have my top 5 games of 2017. There were a lot of fantastic games released in 2017, and as always I didn't get around to playing every single game I wanted to yet, so I'll mention those at the end alongside my honorable mentions. We also saw the release of the Nintendo Switch early in the year. Cool stuff. And another highlight for me was the wealth of support the PlayStation VR saw. I spent the whole summer of 2017 in virtual reality playing dozens of amazing games, a few of which you might see on this list. So let's get to it. Destiny 2 is a super fun co-op game. I played through it with a friend from beginning to end, and that's how it's done. You jump and zoom around, exploring the world, drive around with your speeder bikes, do missions, blow up hordes of enemies, go through some epic action set pieces, face big bosses, collect some fat loot, gain new skills, dance around in the hub, and it's all great fun. Very reminiscent of Borderlands gameplay. The gunplay is superb, and there's some nice variety in all the character classes and their subclasses having their own skills and crazy super attacks. My favorite class by far was the Warlock Stormcaller. Floating around shooting lightning from your hands, mowing down huge crowds of enemies was very satisfying. The game looks stunning. I love all the vibrant colors. The scenic backgrounds look insane in the open areas. In certain locations the graphics were so clean and crisp it almost looked like real life video. On a slightly unrelated note, I happened to try remote play for the first time with Destiny 2, which is basically where you have your PS4 at home, and when you're on the go, in my case I was visiting family, you connect to it via the internet, and you can play your PS4 games on your Vita. The reason I wanted to mention it is because it blew me away with how well it works. There was no noticeable lag whatsoever, it was just like playing it on the PS4. It looked great and played without a hitch. The only small downside was how tiny the Vita analog sticks are, which made the aiming a little harder. So I had to temporarily change away from my trusty sniper rifle. But yeah, Destiny 2. I love South Park. I've been watching the show since I was way too young to watch it. The Fractured But Whole is of course a sequel to the first proper South Park game we got in 2014, The Stick of Truth, which almost got the #1 spot on my list that year. The game feels a bit like a companion piece to the newer seasons of the show, whereas The Stick of Truth felt more like an homage to the whole series, with a lot more references to the older seasons. Instead of playing fantasy, the kids are now playing superheroes. In its core, the game hasn't changed much. It's still an RPG where you play as the new kid in South Park, go around town and complete missions for all the familiar characters, while being bombarded with lots of hilarious animated cutscenes.
This was started by you! By people who thought there should be preferential treatment to certain heroes! We aren't the ones who walked out of the fucking franchise, Mysterion!
Eric, you must listen to me. Right now, I'm speaking to you telepathically.
Get out of my head, Timmy.
Your franchise is going nowhere. Face the truth, Eric. You guys are kind of douchebags.
He just called us douchebags, in my mind. He did? Alright, you son of a bitch! Ah! Motherfucker! Good friends, deal with these assholes!
The most noticeable improvement to the game compared to The Stick of Truth came with the introduction of the entirely new grid-based tactical battle system. I was very impressed with it, to the point that I think some JRPGs should steal the idea and use it in their games. The tactical aspects of positioning your character correctly to be able to execute attacks effectively while trying to avoid leaving yourself open to enemy attacks, and the way the different status effects play into it by limiting movement, force you to be a lot more strategic. The boss battles, which are a big highlight of the game, even expand on the system by introducing different winning conditions. For example, instead of killing all enemies, sometimes you just have to get one of your party members to the other end of the battlefield to win, which I thought was a really neat idea. The last thing I fucking love about the combat is that they have proper working difficulty settings. When you crank it up to diabolic, the game actually becomes challenging. The story, as always, is as hilarious as it is outrageous. Trey Parker and Matt Stone never fail on that front, they're geniuses. But as much as I love this game, I think the Stick of Truth was a bit better suited for my personal tastes. I don't like superheroes, just in general, and those episodes of the show were never my favorite. So that large aspect of the game didn't appeal to me too much. I preferred the fantasy theme of the Stick of Truth, and while I love the newer seasons of the show, the older ones hold a more special place in my heart, so I preferred the way the Stick of Truth connected more with those, but none of that takes away from the awesomeness of the Fractured But Whole. Any fans of the show who haven't played both of the games are missing out big time. When you play Firepoint for the first time with this weapon in your hands, you think, hey, this is pretty damn cool. And then suddenly you hear a faint footstep diagonally behind you, and in a split second you instinctively twist your whole body around, pull the trigger, and blow the monster into pieces right as it's charging at you. And that is when you realize just how game-changing virtual reality is for first-person shooters, especially with peripherals as good as this. Having a representation of your in-game gun to hold in real life with one-to-one movement significantly increases full upper body immersion, and the aiming feels extremely natural. It's like back in the day when you had to go to the arcades to play these hella cool high-tech shooter games with gun peripherals. Except it's 100 times more cool and 100 times more playable, and you get to do it in the comfort of your own home. Just take my money. Firepoint was the first game on PSVR that felt like a proper AAA experience. It's a very polished first-person shooter game where you're the pilot of the Wanderer and you're tasked with escorting two scientists who are studying a space anomaly back to Earth. Right as you arrive at their space station, the space anomaly starts acting up and swallows all three of you inside it. Next thing you know, you're crash landing onto an unknown planet and you begin a search for the two scientists. The story is really intriguing. It tackles these feelings like the dread of not knowing if you'll ever be able to see home again in a very realistic human way. It takes some unexpected turns and the way it's presented in VR is perfect. They really wanted to get under people's skins with the enemies because the main ones are very spider-like and they jump at your face like head crabs. Of course they had no effect on me, I'm pretty much impossible to scare. Like guide with my aim. It's pretty fucking cool, but I think those are like limited. Yeah, I only have 2 of them. Oh! Fuck me! Ah! I almost hit my fucking headset off. Oh god. On top of the great single player campaign, there's also a separate online co-op mode which is a lot of fun. And quite some time after the launch they also added in a PvP mode in a completely free update, which I haven't checked out yet. Firepoint is an absolute must-have game for every PlayStation VR owner, along with the aim controller. It's far and away the best game for the headset. Or at least it was when it was released, until another game that's coming up on my list came out. I wonder what that is. I'm not the biggest Zelda fan. Breath of the Wild is the first Zelda game I've gone crazy over since the original, which was one of my favorite games as a kid. This game is a masterpiece. Zelda works brilliantly as a proper open world game, and it's astonishing how well Nintendo knocked it out of the park with their first try. The open world is massive and it's such a pleasure to explore it for the first time. You never know what you'll find around the corner. Paraglide through the skies, shield slide down hills, and horse around enough, and you'll even find full-on thriving towns that none of the main quests ever take you to. It boggles the mind how jam-packed full of stuff the world is, considering how big it is. You can barely walk 10 seconds and you've already come across something new. It's nearly impossible to go straight from any point A to any point B without getting distracted dozens of times along the way, and I think the best way to play the game is just to let that happen. Allow yourself to do seemingly no progress for hours upon hours at a time. That's where the game shines. You feel like you're getting nothing done and yet you're having a blast, because even the little things are very rewarding, like the Korax you find literally everywhere that give you some much needed extra inventory space. There are two main aspects about the game that I think elevate it from being a great game to being brilliant. Aspects that make everyone's experience with the game vastly different from anyone else's. One of them is the well-executed open world, and the other is the physics engine. It makes everything about the game so much more unpredictable and interesting. There are limitless different ways of approaching any situation, whether it's in traveling around the world, defeating enemies, or solving puzzles. Many times when I finished a puzzle, I thought to myself, there's no way that's how the developers intended you to complete it. Finding your own creative solutions to problems is very gratifying. You can do some ridiculous things with the help of your runic powers. Even to this day you still often see Breath of the Wild clips going semi-viral online of people doing some crazy impressive or lucky things with the physics. Other than those two aspects, I really like the combat in the game. I really like how there's big boss enemies just out and about in the world. I like how there's very little hand-holding, the game lets you figure things out on your own. I like the sufficient difficulty level, I like the art style, I like the bite-sized shrine dungeons, I like the cutscenes, I like the characters and their voice acting, I like the cooking system, I like the climbing. There's very little I don't like about the game. I think not only is it the best Zelda game, but also just straight up one of the best games that Nintendo as a whole has ever made. It wasn't until I started planning this video that I had any doubt that The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild would be the #1 game on my list. But there was a last minute switch up. A very unlikely competitor took the win by a hair. Let's see what my game of the year is. Haha, very funny, Bone. You put Skyrim at the top of your list in 2017. Stop screwing around, you screw around too much. No, I'm 100% serious. These lists are all about which games I found the most enjoyable to play, and while Zelda is pretty much on par with this on that front, the reason I put Skyrim VR at #1 is because it is the first of its kind, and something I've dreamed of pretty much ever since I heard about the Virtual Boy around 20 years ago. Originally I wasn't even going to play it, it's such a long game and I was busy when it came out, and I thought I had already given it enough of a shot back in 2011, but I was curious about how well it worked in VR, so I decided I'll at least play it once and why not make a stream out of it, so I did. And I had so much fun during that stream, I completely fell in love with the game. Holy shit, I'm in Skyrim. Oh my god. Holy shit. Are you seeing this? This is fucking cool. Oh, dude. Oh, fuck, that's cool. Holy shit. Oh My goodness. This is easily one of the best things that has come out on the PSVR so far. I'm just taking this in because this is fucking cool. I'm in goddamn whatever this is called. Riverwood. Holy shit. Ooh. Oh, that's so fucking satisfying. Fuck you, dragon! Oh my god. Damn, dude. Die. Yes. Oh! This is fucking cool. I'm the Dragonborn. That was awesome. Holy shit. The stream went on for 4 long hours, and the second I put it down I wanted to play more. So 2 days later I had to do another 3-hour long live stream. At the end of that one I felt like I had scratched my Skyrim itch enough to not want to play it anymore, but nope. In the following weeks and months I constantly had this nagging thought in my head telling me to start playing it again.
You know you wanna do it. It's only 150 hours. My precious.
And after 6 grueling months in May of this year, I finally gave in. I put everything I was doing and playing on hold and used almost all of my free time for the next 2 months playing Skyrim VR. And it was, without any exaggeration, one of the best gaming experiences I've ever had in my life. It is exactly what I want from VR, a fully realized living, breathing fantasy world that I had the pleasure of getting lost in for 2 full months of my life. It is the pinnacle of escapism. When I put that headset on, I was no longer naked in my dark apartment playing a video game. I was the one taken prisoner in a foreign land whose head was about to be chopped off. I was the one exploring this gorgeous land of forests and mountains. I was the one talking to all its citizens, the righteous and the nefarious, and helping them with their problems. I was the one descending into the catacombs, knocking arrows back and releasing them into the heads of the undead. I was the one constantly receiving passive-aggressive statements from Lydia. I was the one shouting back all who stood against me. I was the one getting launched into the sky by giants. I was the one going on drunken adventures and having no memory of them. I was the one shooting fireballs from my hands at fearsome frost trolls. I was the one standing on rocks to escape the scary bears. I was the one storming city gates in the battle against the Imperials. I was the one fighting the dragons. I was the Dragonborn. It is ridiculous what a difference it made to me playing Skyrim back when it first came out almost 7 years ago and playing it now in virtual reality. Thank God I wasn't able to get that into it back then, because I doubt I would have had such a powerful experience if I had already played most of it beforehand. Bethesda did an amazing job bringing the game to virtual reality. Once you get used to the controls with the Move controllers, they become like second nature to you. The combat, especially with the bow and arrow, is extremely satisfying. In my opinion, this is by far the best way to experience vanilla Skyrim. You just can't beat the level of immersion that VR brings. I went so thorough with it that I got the Platinum Trophy on PSN, which is something I usually never go for. When Elder Scrolls 6 comes out, I will not play it if there's no VR version at launch. I will wait for it for another 10 years if that's how long it takes, because I now know how that can make an already really great game into just something else, something much more impactful. In closing, I have to say that Skyrim in VR is fucking cool as motherfucking hell. And there we go, that's my list. Breath of the Wild and Skyrim VR made 2017 probably the best year in gaming for me since I've started making these videos in 2014. They were just outstanding, the types of games I live for. And now, let me quickfire some honorable mentions. First up we have 7 Days to Die. This is a game I would have never bought on my own, but my friends wanted to play it together, so I got it, and it was actually a lot of fun. It's a good co-op open world survival game with zombies. Animal Crossing Pocket Camp. This was a lot better than I thought it would be, but it's still no proper Animal Crossing. It's a fun distraction on the phone for a few weeks. Arizona Sunshine. This was a great single-player campaign zombie game on PSVR. Blasting zombie heads in virtual reality is super fun, and the game even got a little spooky at times. Dino Frontier. This is a super polished real-time strategy game set in the Frontier days on PSVR. It's a blast to play, but unfortunately it's really short. Superhot VR. This is one of the coolest games on PSVR. Dodging bullets and killing enemies in constant slow motion makes you feel super badass. And then we have the games I wanted to play but still haven't gotten around to, and there were a lot of them this time. The big one I wanna mention right off the bat is Persona 5. I love this series. Persona 3 and 4 are 10 out of 10 brilliant games, some of my favorite JRPGs, so I was really looking forward to 5 and I did play it for about 10 hours, but something about it just didn't click with me. It may have been the tone of the game, or maybe the characters, or maybe I just wasn't in the mood to play a JRPG at the time, but for the sake of my love for the 2 previous games, I'll definitely sit down and give it another shot, hopefully in the near future. And then we have the rest of the games I was interested in playing. Cuphead. It looks awesome, but I don't have an Xbox and I don't like Steam, so I don't know if I'll ever get around to it. The Evil Within 2. I love the first game, so I definitely need to play this one. Friday the 13th. I dabbled into it a little bit, but not nearly enough. Raw Data. It looks like a fun VR action game. Resident Evil 7. A lot of people say it's their favorite PSVR game, but I've been too scared to play it yet. The Walking Dead Season 3. The 4th and final season has already started releasing, so I look forward to playing 3 and 4 back to back. I love the first 2 seasons. And finally, Yooka-Laylee. It looks fun. 2018 in about a month from now is gonna give us Red Dead Redemption 2, so expect my next list to just have one game in it, because how can any other game even pretend to compete with that? I'll see you guys then. Thanks for watching.